Welcome, my dear students, in our course International Banks, and today we will explain chapter number 4, Developments of International Banking. So, the first point or the first section, GATS and International Banking. So, why we study GATS and what do we mean by GATS? GATS as International Agreement, and this abbreviation stands for General Agreement on Trade in Services. So, this agreement regulates the international trade on services. This agreement or GATS, a new multilateral agreement and entered into force in the beginning of 1995 as a result of Uruguay round. Uruguay round, in this case, we talk about negotiation process between countries in case of GATT. So there is a difference between GATT and GATS. GATS, G-A-T-S, this is General Agreement Trade on Services, but GATT, G-A-T-T, General Agreement Tariffs and Trade. So this is different between GATT and GATS. The main question now, it's clear that how you can import or export a product or a commodity. Yes, you can export or trade in commodity when you transfer the product or goods from the port in exporter country to the port in importer country. So for service, how we can import or export a service. This is very important. How we can import or export a service. GATS answer this question by the following 4 modes of supply. 4 modes of supply. In each mode, we compare between, first we have 2 parts, provider of a service equal producer, equal exporter, equal seller, and the user for this service, user equal consumer, equal client, equal importer. In each case, we compare between 2 cases, immobile and mobile. Immobile equal the provider or the user is still in his place or in his country. Mobile equal the provider or the user move to another place. So the first mode number 1. Mode number 1 equal cross-border supply. Mode number 1, cross-border supply. So in this case, cross-border supply, the case when provider of a service immobile, still in his place, and the user for the same service immobile, the same. So this is cross-border supply. So my question now, the provider in his country, the consumer or user in his country, how we can export or import a service by technology. By technology. Give me example related to banking. Suppose you are Egyptian resident and live in Egypt. You access to the website of Bank of America to make a deposit, to open a bank account, anyway. So in this case, we talk about cross-border supply or mode number 1. Mode number 2, the case when provider of a service immobile, but the user for this service mobile or move. So we can call this mode as consumption abroad. Consumption abroad. This is mode number 2. Okay? Consumption abroad. Okay. Consumption abroad, the user travel or move to consume this service. Give me example related to banking. Okay, when you are Egyptian and live in Egypt, you will travel to USA to request a loan or make a deposit in Bank of America. In this case, you travel. Mode number three, the case when provider of a service mobile but the user immobile. So in this case, the producer move to provide a service. Mode number three, we talk about commercial presence. So give me example related to banking when. Suppose Bank of America open new branch or subsidiary in Egypt. This is mode number three. In general, mode number three related to FDI or foreign direct investment. Another important point that mode number one, mode number two, mode number three, we talk about the provider of a service as a firm or corporation. But mode number four, the case of the provider mobile and the user mobile. In this case, we talk about the provider of a service as an individual or natural person. So mode number four, temporary movement of natural persons. In this case, we talk about the provider of a service as an individual, natural persons. Give me example related to banking. When we talk about, suppose you are accountant or consultant and you will travel abroad to provide a consultant or any service. In this case, talk about mode number four. In general, which mode of supply subject to the highest restriction? The highest restrictions in case of mode number four. The lowest restrictions, mode number one. So we can answer the question where how we can import or export a service. Another point when we talk about the classification of services in GATS. In general, GATS, we talk about sectors. How many sectors? 12 sectors in case of GATS. So GATS classified services into 12 main sectors or general sectors. For example, when we talk about education in this case talk about sector, tourism sector, financial services sector, commercial services sector, and so on. Another classification when we talk about subsectors, or actually the services or the individual services. So when we talk about education, in this case we talk about the main sector. Subsectors may be primary education, higher education, adult education, and so on. For banking, banking is a subsector. Banking service as a subsector. So the main sector, financial services. Financial services. So GATS classified banking services into the traditional classifications for banking, like acceptance of deposits, lending, leasing, all payment guarantees, and on account for or accounts for customers, or in exchange of accounts, like the money market, foreign exchange, derivatives, securities. So in this case, talk about the classification of banking services as a subsector in case of GATS. This case study, when we talk about the importance of services, so based on the value add terms, maybe services account for 50% of trade or of world trade. Another importance that based on technology and advances, in this case talk about the services may lead to achieve sustainable development goals like environmental services and so on.